So his jersey will be retired in December, but that's not why I'm bringing this up. I'm bringing this up to say, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, the Steelers should be ashamed of themselves. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's another great day to discuss other people's excellence. I'm the unforgettable one himself, Mr. Brett Carroll. Charles is not daydreaming, but he can't be with us right now. I know he is devastated, and I mean devastated that he can't be on this pod. We might be able to get him later on. We'll see. But as you can see, we're talking some Batman today. You know he loves his Batman. I love my Batman as well. So, when you got a baby, you got to deal with baby things, and that's what he's dealing with. But that's okay. The show will go on. Like I said, we're hoping that maybe he could hop in a little bit later, but if not, it's just gonna be us today. That's all right. We've done this before. We've had fun doing it. We're gonna continue to do it. But yes, this is episode 3. Well, actually, technically episode 2 of season 4. BSN at work. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of Batman related stuff to talk about. However, I do have a couple of sports stories that I want to talk about before we jump into the fun stuff. So I'm gonna just go ahead and do that now anyway. All right. First thing, the Steelers, when it was announced this week that the Steelers are retiring Franco Harris's number 32 jersey because December would be the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. If you are a football fan, you know how big that play is. It is the play that the NFL themselves deemed the number 1 play in the NFL's history. Okay, so before you get on me for being a Steelers homer and saying that, oh, how can I call that the best play of all time? The NFL did that when they did their 100-year anniversary special and they counted down the top 100 plays in NFL history. The Immaculate Reception was number 1. That's how big that play is. And Franco Harris obviously was the recipient of that Immaculate Reception that changed the fortunes of the Pittsburgh Steelers forever. So his jersey will be retired in December, but that's not why I'm bringing this up. I'm bringing this up to say, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, the Steelers should be ashamed of themselves. I said it. The Steelers should be ashamed of themselves, not just because I should say that they've waited this long to retire his number. Again, 50 years since the Immaculate Reception. Now, obviously, that was early in his career because, again, that's what got them to their first ever Super Bowl. And obviously, he had a long, outstanding career after that. But one, like I said, it was deemed the greatest play in NFL history. So they should have known the moment that play happened, this is a guy that they might have to retire his jersey soon. But again, when we're in this era of giving guys their flowers while they can smell them and appreciating greatness while they're here, to me, it's unsettling that they had to wait for the 50th anniversary of the play to retire his jersey. I just don't think that's appropriate. Nobody should have to wait that long to be honored by a team that they've given their heart, blood, their blood, sweat, and tears to. And it's not just that. I didn't even know this, but Franco Harris would only be the 3rd ever Steeler to get their jersey retired. Think about this. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers we're talking about. One of the most decorated organizations in all of American sports, tied with the most Super Bowls in the NFL history, has a slew of Hall of Famers that have worn the black and gold. And you're telling me Franco Harris is only the 3rd guy to get his number retired? To me, I'm sorry, that is inexcusable. And like I said, Pittsburgh should be ashamed of themselves. I'm serious. They should be ashamed of themselves. I believe it's only Joe Green. I know it's Joe Green, and I think the second one is Terry Bradshaw, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously the 2 that they've done already, hands down, got it right. But where's Lynn Swann? Where's Rod Woodson? Where's Troy Polamalu? Where's Hines Ward? I could go on and on and on. Obviously, Ben Roethlisberger he just retired. He'll get his number retired sooner rather than later. I'm not worried about Ben. But to me, I think that's atrocious that a team that has such a rich history and such a great relationship with their players. If you listen to guys around the league, they always talk about how Pittsburgh is so different. It's that college atmosphere. It's the guys always coming back, always being around the building, always being able to reach out and talk to the current generations. They specifically draft certain guys because they remind them of past legends. So that way, not only can they coach them up, because once again, probably anybody that's coached them is already in the building still. But two, the legend themselves can come back and coach them up. It was a big deal that Heath Miller was talking to Pat Fryermuth over the summer this year, right? When they've drafted Pat Fryermuth, everybody said, yeah, he reminds me of Heath Miller. So it's amazing to me that an organization like the Steelers that has such a great relationship with most of their players haven't respected them enough to put them in the ring of honor during, after their career's over. I have a problem with that. I have a major problem with that. It's not just the Steelers. I'll call out another one of my teams, the Yankees. If I was a professional baseball player, I don't know if I would play for the Yankees. You got to have a clean shaven face. You can only have a mustache, and two, I don't like the whole there's no name on the back of the jersey. It's only the Yankees. Da 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 da. I don't really like that. Again, I understand it's more about the team and not the player. I get that. Trust me, I get that. I'm a Steelers fan first and foremost. Any great player that played for the Steelers, I was a Steelers fan before they got there. I'll be a Steelers fan long after they're gone, right? I get that. But I think we also need to be careful of sometimes players do introduce guys to a team. Think about there's a lot of people, either you or somebody you know likes a team because a certain player played for them, and that's what made them fall in love with that team. So I don't want us to completely ignore the player as well. I understand it's about the name on the front and not the name on the back, but we can't just ignore the great athletes that make the sport what it is, that make us want to watch. You know what I mean? Like that, especially football, because as we know now, these guys were really putting their lives on the line with the head injuries and the sustain, the damage it does to your head and your body. So to me, the Steelers got to do better, man. They got to do better. Put more guys in the Hall of Fame, in the Ring of Honor. And again, I think that's a beautiful tradition in sports. I really do. And there's great ways to do it. I understand in football, you might not want to do that because you're gonna run out of numbers fast. But that's fine. You could always just put the name. It doesn't have to be the number per se. Put the name in the Ring of Honor. That's fine, but they got to do it. There's some great traditions throughout sports, right? I love, like, in college. Was it LSU? If you're that dude, you wear number 7. Florida State, if you're that dude, prime time might bless you with 21. Even the Dallas Cowboys, when you're the next great receiver, they'll give you the number 88 as long as the other guys give them your blessing. The blessing. I love that. You know what I mean? That's fine. You could do that. Back to the Yankees. I criticized the Yankees before, but I will say this: even though you're a nobody when you're wearing the pinstripes, if you do anything of significance while wearing the pinstripes, they will put you in Monument Park, which is basically the Yankees Hall of Fame. If you did anything, I mean anything, that one guy, oh, Brett Carroll, he played for the Yankees for 6 years, but he hit that one home run in that one clutch game, put his name in Monument Park. I will give the Yankees that. If you have done anything of significance with the Yankees, your name and number will be in Monument Park. I know high school Hall of Fames that are harder to get into, the Yankees Monument Park. I believe numbers 1 through 15 are all done already. And I think even 16 through 30, there's only a handful of those numbers left. That's one of the reasons why Aaron Judge has to wear 99, because there's no numbers left to wear as a Yankee. So I will give them their props for that. You're a nobody while you play for them, but if you play well, they will honor you forever. Fine. Again, there's ways you can do it. I just think that the Steelers need to do better. Even now, man. Kendrick Green has Marquise Pouncey 53. Kendrick Green fucking sucks. I mean, he's terrible. And if I were Marquise Pouncey, I would feel some type of way. Like, yo, man, I played 10 years for you. In my prime, I was considered the best center in all of football. And the moment I retire, you give my number to this scrub who plays my position and is terrible. You know what I mean? Like, it's just stuff like that makes me feel some type of way. That's just me. So Steelers, do better. Other organizations, do better. Respect the great athletes that come, that put your jersey on and put on a show every night for that make you billions of dollars. Because we always talk about, oh, I don't care about this athlete. They're making millions of dollars. Okay. Well, the organization that they play for is now making billions of dollars. So again, you can respect the guys that got you that money. Because as much as I love the Rooneys, nobody's showing up to watch the Rooneys. They're showing up to watch the guys on the field. So that's the only thing I got to say about that. Steelers do better. Organizations do better, because I'm telling you that relationship between organization and player is important. Treat your players with respect. That's all I got to say about that. Next other story. This is more of a rumor, but it's something I do want to talk about. Um, there's a rumor that the NBA will soon announce expansion teams for Seattle and Las Vegas. And I'm not going to talk about that specifically because, again, that's just a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't even know if the source that started spreading the rumor is legit or not. But it got me thinking about a few things. One, there's a couple problems with the NBA that they've been trying to resolve. One is making the regular season matter. And two, well, the biggest thing was making the regular season matter. And so a lot of people are speculating, well, if this is true that they're expanding, what are they going to do? Are they going to go to 4 divisions? Are they going to realign? Well, how are they going to do it? If they're going east-west, the easiest thing to do is add Seattle and Vegas and then move either New Orleans or Memphis to the Eastern Conference. However, I have a better idea. I'm not going to go into detail because I already did a whole pod on that. I'll try to link that in the descriptions. But I wrote an article years ago about realignment, in which I said if they add 2 more teams, they should adopt the NFL/MLB model of, instead of East versus West, have an American Basketball Conference and a National Basketball Conference. In each conference, you should have a East Division, a West Division, a South, and either a North or a Central Division. That's how they should do it. ABC West, ABC, NBC West, so on and so on and so on. Again, I'm not going to go into the details about how I would structure it or anything. You can listen to that pod / read that article. I'll link that, I'll link that in the description of this video. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because one of my biggest problems with the NBA is the fact that divisions don't matter. They just don't matter. And I hate that. As a football fan, divisions are almost everything, right? You win your division, that is a point of pride. That is something that is important, that, going into next season, stuff like that. MLB, you win your division, that's a point of pride, stuff like that. NBA doesn't matter. And one of the issues that the NBA is having, besides making the regular season matter, is the fact that there's no rivalries. There's no rivalries whatsoever anymore. Teams have smoke for a year or two and then it's over. And a lot of people are blaming player movement. And I understand that when the teams themselves aren't the same after 2 years, I get how it's hard to have like an established hatred for each other. And I understand that. And yes, player movement is a big part of it. But to me, I think the biggest part of it is the fact that there are no divisions. So even the natural rivalries that you would have as a player aren't there because they don't matter. And so, I've been debating this with a couple of, different chats, and some people agree with me, some people don't. But my thing is, I think if you made divisions matter, you will bring back rivalries and you would make the regular season matter. And I think this is something they could do with or without expansion. Again, it's a simple rule. 10, 15 years ago, the rule was if you won your division, you were a top 4 seed. They got rid of that because at the time there were some divisions that weren't that strong. And so you had teams that were winning their division, had a top 4 seed, and had a home court advantage against better teams, which gave them an unfair advantage. And so they took the rule away. My thing is bring that rule back. I think it's time to bring the rule back. One, again, I said it in our last pod when we talked about the NBA. I think the NBA has so much talent and there's so many good teams, you're not going to run into that issue that often anymore. It might happen once in a blue moon, but for the most part, every division has at least one or two really good teams in it that deserve to be in the top seed. And two, like I said, it would bring rivalries back. Um, I'll use my team as an example. 2 years ago, right? The Sixers had the number one seed and the Nets had the number two seed. The Nets kind of took their foot off the gas pedal towards the end of the year because they had some nagging injuries, and they did the smart thing and say, you know what, let them have the number one seed. We'd rather be healthy. If we gotta face them in the Eastern Conference Finals and we don't have home court, whatever. But we'll deal with that when we deal with that. And I think it was a smart move. But now imagine if, well, listen, we have to get the number one seed because if we don't win our division, we might be the fifth seed. That changes the entire mindset. And every time you face Philly, that would have mattered. That would have made it that much more important. You don't have that anymore. Again, same division. The Sixers, Nets, Celtics should all be really good teams this year. You should want those three teams having animosity towards each other, trying to win the division because the teams know the two that don't win aren't going to have home court at all. That's big. That's huge, especially in the Eastern Conference that is loaded. You want to have home court advantage. And so to me, I think they need to bring back divisions. Again, they could do that now without even expanding, but they need to bring back divisions to bring back rivalries. Last year, and again, I'm just going to use my Nets as an example again. I had my proudest moment and my least proudest moment in the same season, right? I already talked about how disappointed I was with how the season ended and us getting swept and us making no adjustments and stuff like that. I hope y'all can't hear them dogs barking. They need to get their dogs. But my proudest moment was just a couple months earlier when they went into Philly and smoked Philly because it was the first game since the James Harden trade. And so, yes, you're going to get that too, right? That animosity between players and stuff who left and all this other stuff. But that usually lasts for a game or two. We've already seen it. James Harden and Kevin Durant have been at Travis Scott concerts. They've been working out. I believe him, Katie, and Kyrie have worked out in LA or something like that. So we already know that they're probably back to being buddy now. So the next time they play them, that animosity isn't going to be there like it was last year. If anything, all the animosity will be on Philly's side because of Ben Simmons. So we might have a situation where they come ready to play against us because their animosity towards Ben Simmons. But again, that's only going to happen once, maybe twice, and then that's going to be over. As a fan, that sucks. I want every game against Philly to matter between now and the rest of the time. As to Charles's point, he doesn't think this team is going to last past this year. What if he's right? What if they blow it up at the end of the season? Are we never going to play Philly in a meaningful game again? I don't want that. As a Nets fan, every time we face Philly, there should be smoke. Every time we face the Knicks, there should be smoke. Every time we face the Celtics, there should be smoke. As a Steelers fan, I love Ravens week. That's my favorite time of the year when we play the Ravens because you know it's going to be an intense game. I love facing Cincinnati. The Browns, not so much because we blow them out. Like that's how it should be. But in the NBA, you don't have that. So if you bring back divisions, well, I mean, divisions are still there. But if you bring back those rules that incentivize winning your division, you now make it so those rivalries count because every single year you have to beat the teams that are in your division because you need to make sure you have the best record in your division so you can get a top four seed. If they do that, that will be a much better way of going about doing things, especially if they expand to 32 teams and if they do realign. I think that's a perfect way to do it. Realign, take on that MLB/NFL model, make the divisions matter, bro. Like that's my biggest thing. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. Those are the two sports topics I wanted to talk about before before we get into this Warner Brothers debacle. There's a lot going on. Let me know what you guys think. Should we bring back divisions in basketball? I know some people that say it doesn't matter to basketball culture just because it works for the MLB and the NFL doesn't mean it has to work for the NBA. Let me know in the comment section, right? What do you think? Should we make divisions matter again? Or am I bloviating for no reason? You like it the way it is. The best team should get the best seeds, no matter if they're first, second, or third in the division. I see both sides of it. Me personally, and maybe it's just the football fan in me. I really want the divisions to matter. That's just me. All right, but let's get to what you guys came here for. We're going to talk Warner Brothers. We're going to talk everything that is going on with uh Warner Brothers Discovery. There's a lot. There's so much stuff that I had to redo our redo my presentation this week because more information is coming in almost every single day. I'm sure by the time I upload this, there'll be more information, but it is what it is. And before I even get into that, we wanted to talk about House of the Dragon. Maybe I'll wait for Charles for that because I know he loves that show, and he's already missing Batman. So all right, I'll wait for him to do that one. Let me share my screen. Yo, whoever's dog this is, can y'all please get this dog? I don't know if you can hear that, but this dog has been barking since we started, and it's like really pissing me off. That's insane, bro. Like, pick up your dog, dude. All right. All right, so let's talk about what's going on with Warner Brothers, man, because it's been a mess. If you guys don't know, Discovery has bought Warner Brothers, which I know is still shocking to me too. You would think it would be the other way around, but Discovery bought Warner Brothers, and David Zasloff, who's the new CEO of the new Warner Brothers Discovery, has been on a rampage. And it's not that surprising when you have a takeover like that. That's what's going to happen. People are going to get fired. Things are going to get moved around. Stuff's going to happen. But a lot of people are scared because it seems like a lot of stuff is getting cut and not a lot of stuff is getting brought back. So we're going to break it all down. I follow this stuff because I just find this stuff interesting myself. As you know, I'm a huge DC fan. So obviously, and a huge Warner Brother fan in general. So obviously, I'm going to pay attention just to see what's going on over there. But plus, I'm a stockholder. You know what I mean? I'm a stockholder. So I just want to make sure I should know what I need to be paying attention to in the company that I'm invested in. So I'm emotionally invested and I'm financially invested. So let's talk about this stuff. I'm gonna break it all down, make it nice and simple for you guys. So here's just a quick rundown. Like I said, this is David Zasloff. He's the new CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. He's fired a lot of the old regime, gotten rid of a lot of the people that were there before. And I think a lot of people were okay with that, right? A lot of people were okay with that because Warner Brothers was not being run properly, which is why they had to get taken over by Discovery in the first place. Again, in a perfect world, Warner Brothers should never get bought by Discovery. It should have been the other way around. But that's neither here or there. Here's where stuff starts to get a little fuzzy. Uh, just a couple months ago, or even last month, I think in August, they decided to cut the live action Batgirl movie, which was already done. It was shot. It was for the most part edited. The movie was done. It was a $90 million movie, and they decided to cut it along with the Scoob sequel. Scoob was an animated Scooby Doo movie that came out like a year or two ago. They had a sequel coming out. Both of these movies were supposed to go straight to HBO Max. David Zasloff has said, no, we're not doing that. His mantra is, we want this stuff. If we're going to make movies, they should be going straight to theaters. And if they're not good enough to go straight to theaters, we're going to cut them. And so they decided to cut Batgirl and Scoob. They're shopping the Cape Crusader, which is a Batman show, and other projects. They're shopping them. He apparently wants to skew HBO Max as well as Warner Brothers as a whole towards adults. There's the Ezra Miller stuff going on with the Flash. Legendary Entertainment contract is about to be done. No more Dan Lin, no more fandom. I'm gonna break all this stuff down. But this is basically all the major headlines coming out of Warner Brothers. And as you can see, none of it looks good. None of it looks good. Um, and so a lot of people are panicking. A lot of people are sitting there saying, "Oh my God, what's happening? What is going on with Warner Brothers?" I'm gonna break down all of these individually and just give you guys a more in-depth analysis of what's going on and why a lot of this stuff actually isn't bad. Okay, so Batgirl. Um, like I said, he cut Batgirl and Scoob. They're gonna get tax write-off, so we will never see this movie because if they ever show this movie, especially for profit, the IRS will come for them. They are literally cutting this movie just so that they can get their money back in tax write-offs. Again, this was a $90 million movie. Um, and it just cost too much. From what we're hearing about it, it wasn't the greatest film in the world, so it's not like they cut a masterpiece. Um, and for instance, they made a Blue Beetle movie as well that was also supposed to go to HBO Max, but apparently they saw the movie and they liked the Blue Beetle movie, so they have the green light to continue the funding to put it in theaters. This movie, a lot of people were just like, yeah, it's not that good, so they're gonna cut it. And it would have cost too much to put it to movies. Like I said, it's already $90 million. But if you were to bring it to theaters, now you got to talk about a marketing budget and you got to talk about, finish editing the film and stuff like that. So they projected to have to put another like $30 million into it. That's way too much money for a movie that you don't think is going to be that good anyway. And if it flops at the box office, that means you're going to lose all the money that you put into it. So that's the first thing. And then like I said, it's huge tax break. Huge. Again, $90 million, you get that back. Now, again, you can never show the film, so it's gonna be one of those what if films, right? You can never show it. I think they just did like a silent screening for people that wanted to watch it before they deleted it. That's another thing. A lot of people saying they're gonna delete it, like so that it can never see the light of day. Because again, if they show this movie, especially for a profit, the IRS will come for them. So they're a lot of people believe they're going to delete it altogether and go with that model so that it can't even come to the light of day. Um, but the good thing is the one good thing about the movie was they said Leslie Jones was really good in it and that they want to reprise her role as Batgirl in future projects. So the good thing is, the hard men and women that worked on the film, yeah, a lot of their work is now for nothing, but some of them will be able to come back and do other things later on in the future. So that's the situation about Batgirl. Again, a lot of people had a problem with it. I totally understand it. They're already in debt. They didn't want to put out a movie that they didn't think was going to be successful. So you cut it, get your money back, and focus on high quality movies. That's the one thing he said. Like, look, we're not just going to be just making movies just to make movies. The old regime was just green lighting every single movie because their philosophy is let's just make stuff and see what sticks. A lot of the stuff was going to be for HBO Max because the old regime was focused on HBO Max. This new regime wants quality theatrical releases. HBO Max is great, but we want people in the movie theaters again, watching our movies, enjoying our theatrical releases. We're not worried about HBO Max. HBO Max will take care of itself. And we'll get into HBO Max stuff right now. So, HBO Max will not have Batman the Cape Crusader on its platform. Batman the Cape Crusader is a new animated Batman show that was created by Bruce Timm, who was part of the group that brought us Batman the Animated Series, the classic Batman show that came out in the 90s. And matter of fact, I didn't even know this. Monday was the 30th anniversary of that show. That show came out September 5th, 30 years ago. So amazing show. If you don't understand how iconic that show was, let me just list out some of the few things that came from that show. Harley Quinn was created for that show. Harley Quinn is now a household name. Harley Quinn is now a staple in the Batman universe. Harley Quinn was created for that show, and she was such a hit that she stuck forever. Uh, Mr. Freeze's origin story was forever changed after Batman the Animated Series. The whole thing of him trying to save his wife, and that's why he does what he does. That was such an iconic narrative change that is now his new canon origin story. Nobody's gonna tell the Mr. Freeze story without that origin story now. Um, and it made Batman gritty. Before, Batman was funny, was silly. This was the first time, really. I know some of the Batman movies had kind of got into it, but this was the first time that they really got into the notion of, hey, wait a minute, this guy lost his parents at a young age and is now dressed like a bat fighting psychotic killers. Let's really dive into the psychological psychosis of this guy and the people that he fights. Let's get dark. Let's get gritty with it. Let's be mature about the subject material. And it's the first time that Batman truly became like a dark hero. And now that's the norm, right? You're not, besides Harley Quinn and Lego Batman movie that literally spoof how dark and gritty Batman is, you're never really going to see a silly Batman anymore. It's always dark and gritty and gruesome because that's what Batman is. That's what Gotham is. This show is the one that kind of introduced us to that thought process. So a lot of people, including myself, were extremely excited about this show because this show is supposed to be even more adult. You know what I mean? That show came on WB Kids, or Kids WB, I should say. So as mature as it was, there was a lot of things that had to tone down. This one was supposed to be, we're going all out with how gritty we want it to be. There's going to be some adult language, stuff like that. It was going to be awesome. And so a lot of people, including myself, were excited for this. So when we heard that HBO Max is not going to have it anymore, devastated. You know what I mean? Just completely devastated. Um, and that wasn't the only one. It was the Cape Crusader. There's a Batman Christmas short, and there's two animated Looney Tunes movies that were all being shopped. They're being created still, but they're not being put on HBO Max. They're going to be go out to the highest bidder. And a lot of people are upset about that. So far, Netflix, Apple TV Plus, Hulu, Disney Plus are in the mix for Batman the Cape Crusader. And from what we're hearing, the number is pretty good. And so I'm gonna break that down. Which is why this is actually huge for Warner Brothers, right? The reason why they're doing this, as much as I don't want them to do this, but the reason why they're doing this makes sense. You put this on HBO Max, you're probably only going to get a finite amount of subscribers. The way streaming works, it's not about views or anything like that. It's not like YouTube. Streaming works based on subscribers. Streaming works on how do your shows bring more people to your platform, which is why Netflix a lot of the time they tend to uh, um, cancel shows even though they're being very successful, because they're not, after a while, everybody that's watching that show is already subscribed to Netflix. So let's not keep wasting money, creating another season when we could put that money to another show. And it's the same kind of concept with Batman, right? All Batman fans are probably already subscribed to HBO Max. You know what I mean? If you're a Batman fan, if you're a DC fan, you're probably already subscribed to HBO Max because that's where you're going to get your Batman content. So let's say it costs like $5 to $10 million to make this show. You're probably only going to get 15 to 20 million dollars in revenue from it, from new subscribers, because only a finite amount of people are going to now subscribe to HBO Max to watch the show. Out of the streaming services that were listed here, Netflix, Apple TV, Hulu, Disney Plus, I don't have Apple TV Plus, right? I've been thinking about it, but again, when you start adding up all these subscriptions to all these different streaming services, it becomes costly. If Apple TV Plus got Batman the Cape Crusader, that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? That might make me say, damn, I gotta get Apple TV Plus now. I gotta see this show. Same for people that don't have Netflix, same for people that don't have Hulu, Disney Plus. That's why you do this. The highest bidder might come to them and say, yo, we'll give you $50 million for this show. Netflix spends $20 billion in content, 20 billion with a B. Disney Plus, I believe, spends about like $8 billion, eight with a B, billion with a B, right? So you can kind of do the math on how much they're probably paying for all their content. I can see the highest bidder, and I'm just throwing out numbers. But I can see the highest bidder saying, "Hey, we'll give you, $50 million for this show, right?" So now, if you're HBO Max, of course, you just made way more money doing that than if you would have put it on HBO Max. So, like I said, you'll probably get made only 15 to 20 million dollars in subscribers. Now you have a guaranteed $50 million off the show. And if you're Apple TV Plus or some other streaming service, that's worth the money to you because you might make all your money back plus more. You might make $75 million in subscribers because, again, all major Batman fans, if they don't have your streaming service already, they might go get your streaming service just for this show. And so if you're HBO Max, this is huge. And I can see HBO Max doing bundles like, hey, listen, let's say everybody's around the same. I can see them saying, hey, listen, for 75 million, we'll give you both Batman the Cape Crusader and the Batman Christmas short. And that might drive the price up some more, and people will do that. And they might say, hey, look, for $100 million, we'll give you all four, the two Batman shows and the two Looney Tune projects. Boom, there you go. Now you just made so much more money doing that than if you were to put them on your platform, and you probably would have made combined $50 million off of it. Now you can make $100+ million. And again, that's a good bargain for the other streaming services because, again, if we know our spending budget is in the billions anyway, why would I pay $100 million for a new Netflix movie, right? Because that's how much these big budget movies cost. They cost about $90+ million. We just talked about with Batgirl, right? So why would I spend $100 million on one movie when I can spend $100 million and get four HBO projects? So it's a great deal for both parties. If you're HBO Max, you're making way more money selling it than putting it on your platform. And if you're another streaming service, you potentially have made a whole lot of money because you're bringing content that's not already on your platform. Therefore, you're bringing in potential new subscribers. So again, it breaks my heart that it's not going to be on HBO Max. But again, for a company that's strapped on cash, I understand the move. It actually makes a lot of sense. Now, here's something that, again, makes financial sense, but it's also breaking my heart. Along with shopping some of these projects, they've also cut a lot of content off of HBO Max. A lot of it was animation and cartoon based things. Um, they want to skew the platform towards adults. They look at the heavy hitters on both Discovery Plus and HBO Max, and they're all adult content. And so I understand them saying, you know what, let's specialize in that. If we have great adult content, let's specialize in that. We will, cut uh, the kiddie stuff and we'll sell that to other platforms. We'll just keep our best adult content, unless, of course, unless it's Batman and Cape Crusader, and we think we'll make way more money on another platform. Um, that's what they're doing. I and one of the reasons why is because, like I said, they looked at the numbers, especially on HBO Max, and a lot of stuff that they're cutting were shows that weren't getting the viewers. Like they check the views. Obviously, they know what's a hit and what's not a hit. But a lot of the content that weren't hits were some of the cartoon content, some of the more stuff skewed towards kids. So their thing is, well, if people aren't coming here to watch our kid content anyway, why waste the time and money? We'll put those other places. Now again, this isn't animation as a whole. This is just kid animation. So I have Primal here, which is a fantastic show. That's going to continue to be on HBO Max. They just renewed Harley Quinn for season 4. That's a very adult show. That will be on HBO Max. So they're not getting rid of animation altogether, but they are getting rid of animation that is skewed towards kids. There was like a Flintstones cartoon on there that featured Bam Bam and Pebbles that wasn't that good. They cut that. Um, just little, there was some Looney Tune stuff that they cut. Just stuff that wasn't working, that was obviously skewed just towards little kids, that people obviously just weren't watching and their kids weren't watching. So get rid of it. I personally have a problem with it because as somebody who loves cartoons and stuff like that, I would watch that stuff. Um, I still think it makes sense to have a little bit more kid-friendly stuff on a platform because again, if I'm especially if you're a superhero thing, right? Marvel, DC, if I'm going to show my kids Batman and stuff like that, why would I not then show them Looney Tunes, right? And that's where a lot of people are a little confused. When David Zasloff did his 10-year plan, he pointed out that Looney Tunes was a brand that they should, be proud of. That's a huge brand for them. Looney Tunes is obviously skewed for kids. They own Cartoon Network, again, skewed for kids. So I understand the probability of we're going to make this stuff, but we're going to sell it to other platforms. So now Disney Plus, you're more geared towards kids. If you want the Looney Tune stuff on your platform, go ahead. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I get it. And that's huge for Disney. I'm sure Disney would eat that stuff up to say, hey, listen, we got Mickey Mouse and Looney Tunes on our platform. Um, Now, whether Warner Brothers would let Disney get it, that's another question. But you know what I mean. Apple TV Plus, maybe, I don't know. But so I get it, but it is to me a little disheartening because I like Looney Tunes. I like watching that stuff on HBO Max. I'm probably one of the few, but apparently, according to the numbers, I'm one of the few people that are watching it. So I guess I get why they're not doing it. But again, potential huge profits. Like I said, if they're not bringing in the subscribers and they're not even being viewed on your platform, sell it to somebody else where it could be more successful and make them a lot more money and make you a lot more money. I get it. But like I said, cons is you're losing out on major brands, Looney Tunes, other Cartoon Network programs. The pros is we're going to get the best of the best quality of adult content. So that's cool. The Ezra Miller drama, I'm not even going to go into all the stuff that he's been through because I can't even keep up with it, but he's just had a year. Let's just call it that. The last couple of years, there's been drama after drama, legal issues after legal issues, to the point where a lot of people thought they were going to have to cancel the Flash movie, which they did not want to do because from what we're hearing, this movie is fantastic. From what we're hearing, the movie is absolutely fantastic. So they don't want to do it. It was very important to the cinematic universe because it was going to reboot and reset a lot of the DCEU going forward. And so they had to deal with that. Apparently, he's apologized. He's seeking therapy. They're going to you go along with the Flash next year. Um, Hopefully, they're hoping that once they can get him some therapy and get him right in the head, he can do press releases again and stuff like that to promote the movie. And apparently, they're still thinking about keeping him as the Flash after all this, which to me is insane. I thought they were going to put the movie out and then get rid of him as the Flash. I don't know what they think they're going to hear or see from him in the next year or so that makes them think that this is a good idea. I think this is a terrible idea. He's been linked to so much crazy, wonky stuff that to me doesn't make sense to keep him on, but we shall see. But yeah, like I said, you can go do your own research about what's been going on with him. I'm not even going to get into that on this, but it is something that is swirling around Warner Brothers, so I had to bring it up. Okay, these last two things, these are things that to me are important. These are two things that are very, 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 very damaging to HBO, Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers Discovery if they don't get it fixed. Um, One of them is Legendary Entertainment. The contract is expiring soon. And from what we're hearing, they are not happy with Warner Brothers and they might leave. Legendary has been with Warner Brothers a long time. They've been on and off. They've kind of been with Warner Brothers, left Warner Brothers, came back to Warner Brothers. But they are a huge production company that does a lot of their stuff with Warner Brothers. They did the Dark Knight trilogy. They did the MonsterVerse stuff. All the latest Godzilla movies, all the latest King Kong movies. Godzilla versus Kong. There's a Godzilla versus Kong 2 coming out that will obviously be with Warner Brothers. But the contract's expiring, they might leave. The biggest reason for that is the old regime when they did their day-to-day initiative. If you remember, we did a whole pod on this a couple of years ago. When the pandemic hit, the old regime at Warner Brothers, and this crippled the company, which is why they had to get bought out, and why all the old regime is gone. They decided what they were going to do is they were going to release their entire year's worth of movies straight to HBO Max. You could see them in theaters as well, but you didn't have to go to the theater. You can watch them straight on HBO Max. And this crippled a lot of the movies that they came out that year. And fun fact, Legendary Pictures had the two highest grossing films that year. Kong versus Godzilla, and I believe they did the Mortal Kombat movie as well. Those were the two highest grossing films for Warner Brothers that year. I'm sorry, they did Dune. They did Dune. Those were the two highest grossing Warner Brothers films, and they didn't make that much money because, again, half the people that saw it on HBO Max and they didn't go to the theater. So because of that, Legendary Pictures got screwed. A lot of studios got screwed. And another problem with what they did was they did it without telling anybody. Warner Brothers just decided to do this without consulting the people that make their movies. And so there were lawsuits that they ultimately had to pay out. There was so much damage, irreparable damage that happened because of this, that a lot of people were pissed off. Christopher Nolan has left Warner Brothers because of that, because Tenet got screwed over because of that. It was just a terrible decision. I understand what they were trying to do at the time, but in hindsight, it was a crippling decision to do that. They should have done what other companies did and just delayed the movie, right? They should have just delayed it for a year or so and put out less movies. They decided to put out their entire slate of movies that year and do it day to day. And it ruined the movies. It really did. It ruined the revenue of the movies. Legendary, in particular, really got screwed over because they had two blockbusters that didn't do blockbuster numbers because people were able to watch it at home. And so this is a high priority for Warner Brothers to keep them. They are a major player in what Warner Brothers wants to do. They have a great relation. Well, before this, they had a great relationship. They had a great partnership where Legendary, they fund 90% of the movie. Warner Brothers kicks in, another 10 to 15%. They kind of split the profits. It worked out for both parties. Because obviously it was distributed by Warner Brothers. It worked out by both parties. If they lose Legendary, I'm not gonna lie, that's when people should start getting scared. That's when people should start getting scared. This other stuff, I understand it. It makes sense. It's going to make them a lot of money. If they lose Legendary, they're going to lose a lot of money. A lot of money. So this is something that if you're a Warner Brothers fan, if you're a DC fan, because again, they did the Dark Knight trilogy, so they do DC movies as well. This is something that has to be a top priority. They want to make sure that they can rekindle that relationship. Say, hey, listen, that was the old regime. We're the new regime. Here's our plan. Here's where you fit into that plan. Let's continue to make great movies together because they have. And hopefully, they're able to figure it out. Because if not, it's going to be bad. It's going to be real bad. And here's the other thing that just happened literally like yesterday or 2 days ago. Dan Lin was the inside man to get the DC Studios job. One of the things that David Zaslav wanted to do and said he was going to do was treat DC with the proper respect it deserved by giving it its own studio, just like Marvel has its own studio with Disney. DC was going to have its own studio. Um, and so they wanted they wanted to have somebody be their Kevin Feige, right? Come in and run DC studios, whether it's DC movies, DC television, and they will report directly to David Zaslav. They could go ahead of the boardrooms and the figureheads. They go directly to Zaslav, do whatever they wanted to do. And Dan Lin was the guy that they really wanted. He trained under Alan Horn, which, if you don't know who Alan Horn is, he's one of the biggest executives in movie history. He's probably the greatest executive in movie history. Um, and this was his guy. This is the guy that he wanted as the role. And this is the guy that they really wanted as that role, and they couldn't get the deal done because he owns his own production company, and they wanted him, understandably so, to leave that production company to uh to go full time with this. Obviously, will be a conflict of interest. And again, that production company has done stuff with Warner Brothers. This guy has done a lot of great things. He's done the Lego Batman movie. He did both the Lego movies, I believe. He did the Lego movie 1 and 2 and the Lego Batman movie. He did The Departed a long time ago. He's done some really, really good stuff. He's a really good up and coming executive in the business, and they thought he was going to be the perfect man for the job. They didn't get him because he basically told me, "Yo, man, if I got to leave my production company, you're gonna have to compensate me heavily to um to do that." And they couldn't come up with a number. They couldn't come up with a number that made sense for both parties. And so Dan Lin said, "Thank you, but no thank you." He turned down the job, and he's going to stick with what he's been doing, which I understand. That company has made him a lot of money. Like I say, he's very successful in what he does. It would technically be a step down. I know a lot of people are saying, really? But that is technically a step down because now you just doing DC movies and nothing else. Um, and so that was a big deal that they didn't get their guy. This was their guy, and they couldn't land him. And so David Zaslav, this and the legendary thing, this is where people are now looking at David Zaslav, right? They've been calling him the Axe of Zaslav. He's been cutting shit left and right, which a lot of people do when you take over a company. You slash, you slash, you slash, you remodel. But a lot of people are saying, okay, cool. It's easy to chop stuff down. Can you rebuild it? Can you build it back up? And so far, this is his first big loss. This was a guy you wanted. This is a guy that people thought would have been really good for the job. Now, granted, was he like the number one guy that was, oh my God, you got to get this guy? No, he was a no-name guy that as people did the research on him, they said, okay, I can see why you want him. So it's not the worst thing in the world, technically, but it's one of those things where, hey man, you got to start, mending relationships. It's easy to cut bait and cut the fat, but can you cook? Can you build something together? So legendary and who he gets for his to run DC is going to be huge. That's going to be his big new task. We know you can chop fat. That's great. A lot of people can do that. Can you build something beautiful after the destruction? So a lot of people are really afraid. I'm personally not yet. I'm not there yet. I see the moves. I see why they're making the moves. Do I agree with all the moves? Obviously not, but I get it. Um, Obviously, this Dan Lin thing is a big deal because if that was your guy and you couldn't get him, that is very scary. Again, especially with that legendary conflict as well. If they're already hurt, Dan Lin wasn't hurt at all. This was just y'all couldn't even get a deal done. So now imagine negotiating with somebody who has emotional stake in the game because the old regime burned them, right? So this is huge. We're gonna see what David Zaslav can do now. You've been able to cut the fat. Can you make those relationships work? Now I put down here that he wanted to reboot. Rumor was, at least, I don't know how true this is, but the rumor was he wanted to reboot the entire DCEU. His thing is if Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot, I don't know how you pronounce her last name, if she wanted to come back as Wonder Woman, great. If Jason Momoa wanted to come back as Aquaman, great. If They can get Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck to come back for Superman and Batman respectively. Great. But he didn't like the Snyderverse to begin with. He was one of those guys that were against it. And he wanted to redo it like from the get-go, like just redo everything. Like, yeah, if we want to keep these actors because we like the actors, great, but we're gonna redo it as if it never happened and and just do a hard reboot. The Flash was supposed to be like a soft reboot. He wanted to do like a full-on reboot of the DCEU and just start from scratch. And apparently David Zasloff was going to let him do it. So the reason why that's important is because it's obvious that David Zasloff, whoever he picks, he's picking somebody and he's going to sincerely let them do whatever they want to do with the DC products. Whoever he picks is like, hey, this is your baby. Whatever you want to do, we are fully behind you. We fully back you. Obviously, I'm sure whoever he picks is going to have to give him a pitch and a vision for what he sees for the DCEU and how they want them to go forward. But that's interesting. So now, especially with Dan Lin out the mix, whoever they pick is going to be very, very interesting because we don't know what's going to happen with the DCEU going forward. It can be rebooted, it can continue, it can be something where they try to just persist on like nothing happened. We don't know. But whoever is getting the job, they are going to have full autonomy, which I guess is a good thing, right? That's what you want. Let them be able to create what they want to create. It's just a matter of who can you get. And again, it makes it even more important now. Hey, David Zaslav, are you getting your guys or are you getting with the only person you can settle with? Because if you, and this is David Zaslav's words, if you want to prioritize DC because you know that's your number one brand and it should be treated with the utmost respect, you need to make sure you get a guy that respects the product and is going to take it and do some amazing things with it. But that means you're going to have to negotiate well. You can't just take if you settle for your sixth option because you couldn't get a deal done with your first five who would have done great things with it, and this sixth guy is just a guy that will take the job, that's going to be bad. That's going to be really bad. And so I'm wrapping it up now, but that's basically all the major headlines that's going on with Warner Brothers. Like I said, I would not be surprised if by the time this comes up tomorrow, something else is going on. It's every day it's something going on with Warner Brothers Discovery. But that's to be expected. When you take over a company, especially one in dire straits as Warner Brothers was, this is par for the course. So I want everybody to relax, take a deep breath. I think it's going to be okay. I really do. I think it's going to be okay. Now the Dan Lin news is kind of alarming. The legendary picture entertainment stuff we knew about already, but again, nothing's been set in stone in terms of what's been going on with that yet. But we do know that's a relationship that they're going to have to fix. And again, the one thing he has going for him is everybody that made those decisions that burn legendary, they're gone. So that's one good thing that he could always say, like, hey, I didn't do it and I got rid of the idiots that did do it. So that's the thing. But if you are emotionally invested in Warner Brothers Discovery, if you are financially invested in Warner Brothers Discovery, my suggestion was to buy now while it's still low. I think with all this chaos and uncertainty going on, I think the stock's at an all-time low, both emotionally and financially. I'm going to be optimistic and I'm going to say buy now. Not again, and that doesn't mean literally. It could be an emotional investment, but I do see the vision with what he wants to do. I like what he's saying. I like the things that he's doing. I don't even if I don't agree with all of them, I do like what he's doing. The question is, can he build? We won't know that yet, and obviously, by the time we do know that, the stock will be up, right? If he proves that he's gotten somebody, because again, Dan Lin, it's not like he was this household name that's like, oh my God, I can't believe you couldn't get Dan Lin. No, it was just a guy that they personally liked and thought would do a good job. So if they could, potentially snag a bigger fish for all we know, and everything will be fine. So we don't know yet. But I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to ride with David Zaslav. I think he knows what he's doing. Again, he built Discovery to the point where they were big enough to buy Warner Brothers. So obviously he knows what he's doing, right? He got some clue that he knows how to run a company. So because of that, I'm going to let him do, work on his vision, figure it out. This is all new. This is all part of the course. This is how business works. When a company takes over, there is a lot of fires that need to be set before you reset the forest. So I'm gonna say, let's be optimistic. Buy now, whether it's financially or emotionally, metaphorically or in reality. Buy now, because I think Warner Brothers Discovery is in good hands. I think DC's in good hands. I think this will all work itself out. It's early. He has a 10-year plan. This is year one of that 10-year plan. So I've always been a type of person that's to preach patience. If you're making a 10-year plan, we can't in year two be like, oh, no, we need to see some changes. No, this takes time. All right. So I appreciate you guys. I know you guys are missing Charles. I miss Charles too. Hopefully we'll get him on the next one. But yeah, I'm known for Brother One himself. You can find me at Never Forget Me. That's NEBA underscore the number 4 BRETT underscore ME on Instagram and Twitter. Charles is at Not the Chuck D on all the socials. You can find us at the underscore dope blog on Instagram, the dope blog, all one word on Twitter. We're at the dope.blog. That's our website. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And continue next time and join us next time as we continue to discuss other people's excellence. Peace. Batman lives forever.